Nice to have so many today.
Yes, I wanted to extend just a quick welcome to anyone who isn't a participating member of the open service community. If this is your first time on an OSC call, you should know that we get together every Friday at this time to geek out about service management, talk about the details of service management, and this week is no exception. We will be geeking out. What we try to do is we try to do 20 minutes of a service management topic, 20 minutes of QA, and 20 minutes of socialization so people can get to know each other and figure out who's hiring and who's firing and where to work and where not to work. Um, and what we try to do is we try to get people to present that usually don't present. And in fact, we say this often that you should bring your rough cuts. And this is definitely a rough cut. If you were on the LinkedIn threads about this topic, I just threw these slides together so that we could have a decent discussion about the topic. And I want to thank you for being here. Feel free to join us on a regular basis. We organize these calls on Slack and Discord currently. So if you go to openservicecommunity.com, you can join us and pick your poison, whether you like Slack or Discord. But that's where we organize these. It's usually a different Zoom link. We're going to continue to throw them on LinkedIn for a little bit to see if more people join. But the idea is that no one owns this community. No one can buy this community. No one's going to come and pay $1 billion or $500 million for this community and then destroy it. We are here to support each other and to grow together. So with that, let's continue. Thank you for your time and attention today. You could be a lot of different places this morning, getting a great cup of coffee or a tea, or this afternoon you could be having a cocktail if you're in the evening in Australia. So thank you for being here. Thank you for paying attention to something that I'm very passionate about. So thank you. There's a QR code here and a QR code at the end for all of my content and how to connect with me. So this is the beginning of the Reddit thread. So you can see that I was trying to help. I was trying to help someone by commenting on this Reddit thread. Which SaaS spend management tools do you recommend as the best solution for IT and finance teams? And I put in a response about using our asset management tool. I work for a small company called Invigate. It stands for Inventory Gateway. So we are major nerds about asset management, as I precluded with. So I responded in kind. This is a solution that we use. We use it to track SaaS technology, SaaS contracts, applications, hardware asset management, software asset management. If you haven't heard Ham and Sam yet, are you even doing asset management? It's the joke du jour.
Are you sharing
Uh,
that?
yes. Oh, I'm not sharing. Oh, let me start over. Not start over, but you know what I mean. Share.
I'm looking over here. I don't see nothing.
Hey, I'm over here. You're looking in the wrong spot. All right. There we go. What is an asset?
You're good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, too, because I don't want to go the whole time. QR code I promised. This is the Reddit thread. So this is where it started. Which SaaS spend management tool do you recommend as the best solution for IT and finance teams? And Howery 1984. That's clearly their birthday. Come on. Don't put your birthday in your username. Oh, man. And so I responded. I said, hey, this is a tool that we've built to do this kind of thing. I always put in, hey, I work for them. I always try to put in because it's Reddit. You want to be transparent, especially if you're a vendor, to just, keep the, what do they call it? Karma. Keep the karma high. That's what Reddit calls it. And if you're not on Reddit, I highly recommend you check it out. This one happened to be posted in the /IT managers subreddit. There's one for help desk. There's one for ITIL. There's tons of really good, useful IT subreddits. And I got some pushback when I posted Ornery Bob, which I'm sorry that username is so funny. It has nothing to do with assets. Original poster needs to track SaaS spend. And if you look at the title, that is what they're saying. What SaaS spend management tool? And so I said, that's not an asset. I guess I've always included SaaS software licenses as assets. and ornery Bob, I'm sorry, it's just so funny. We only treat tangibles as assets, hardware basically. SaaS licenses are purely expenses. So ornery Bob doesn't track Windows licenses. Ornery Bob does not track Microsoft 365 licenses. That's what he's saying there. And I'm saying, okay, how do you audit those? How do you keep track of how many you have? I think in most cases, people do treat them as assets. Unless you're a fully shadow IT SaaS situation, I think I would want to track who has access to which applications, but maybe that's just the companies I've worked with. And then Hate DSA came in with, generally, SaaS term licenses are expenses, perpetual licenses are recorded as assets. And this got my brain thinking, what is right? And open service community is the perfect place to discuss this because we're trying to discover tomorrow's best practices today. And so I think this is a really important topic. And looking around on the web, I found several memes that supported me. So here are some of them. When you're done with employee offboarding, suddenly realizing they still have Salesforce access. Don't we want to know who has access to what? And sure, you can go into the tools and see who has it. You can go into Microsoft 365 and see a list of them and pull them out. But don't we need these assets? Don't we need these licenses and contracts and agreements to be managed by something?
I would think, of course.
I would think, of course. I also think, of course. And if you don't know John Worthington, he is a huge fan of the USM method. And I'm sorry, that's like saying ATM machine, but the Unified Service Management method. Oh, it isn't like saying ATM machine. But the simplicity of USM is what brought this to my attention. So there are basically 3 or 4 different ways that I think about whether something should be an asset. And you can agree or disagree all you want on Reddit or here directly to my face or on LinkedIn. To me, this is one of them. Does it need to be patched? Does it need to be updated? Does it require preventative maintenance? And for me, this is why asset management primarily exists. Some people think of this as configuration management as well. And I sort of think that configuration management is wrapped in asset management. So you procure something, you put it into inventory. Once it's put into use, it becomes a CI and an asset. And then once it goes out of service, it goes back into asset management for ITAD, for IT asset disposition. So this is kind of how I think about it. If it's going to be patched, updated, and require preventative maintenance, we need to track those things. And I don't care if you do it in asset or configuration. It's something that needs to be tracked, oftentimes for auditability as well. And that brings us to the governance conversation. Does it have sensitive data? Does it house customer records? Is it used for financial reporting? Is it covered under regulations like GDPR, HIPAA? ISO 20000 is very, very clear that all software licenses must be managed in a service management solution. And this list goes on forever. If you're new to governance and compliance. And for me, this is the other threshold. Is it an asset is the question. And I think yes, if it consumes licenses, if it's subject to or affected by a contract, a lease, support, or other services. And this is a big one, right? Because if you think about the other services, the other processes, the other practices, whatever you want to call them in your IT operations stack, they depend on having a repo or a database of assets to reference. Same thing with configuration management. And then, of course, the one that everyone knows already, the financial threshold. Does it reach a certain cost level? Does it depreciate? Do we need to track that depreciation? Do we have insurance for the device? Are we needing to budget to replace these devices? And I think this is actually the big one, because this is not configuration management. This is the aspect of asset management that is not CIs, that is not configuration management. And this is where it really got me thinking, where this question really got me thinking. So what is the verdict? That was bait. I'm not going to give you the answer yet. But these are some of the responses on my LinkedIn post. I list SaaS licenses as an expense, but the tools itself as an asset. And I think this is so poignant and elegant. This is such a great way to think about it. The license itself is an expense, but your dependence on the tool is an asset. I think that one's a good one. Here's another one from the Hornbill CEO, if you know Jerry. I see a lot of people use the term SaaS license, which just not the right term in his opinion. Generally, you do not license the use of a service. A service has terms of use, and a subscription gives you a contractual right to use that service for your purpose, generally under a vendor-supplied terms of service contract. Now, Jerry and I disagree. Jerry says, yes, I think a SaaS subscription is really an operating expense, but much in the same way as you might consider the monthly payment for your cell phone services. And I think that's okay. From a customer perspective, I agree. I only think about my cell phone as a bill, but not when it goes down. You know, not when I can't make a call, not when I'm out in the woods and I need to make a call, not when I go to a foreign country and I'm getting $10 added to every single bill. And then at the end of the month, I get another $100 on my cell phone bill. I don't think about it as just an operating expense. I think, what the hell? Why is my bill this much higher? And so all these different, and here's John's perspective as well. And I really like this. I have to admit that I'm also a USM fanboy. The focus is on agreements and responsibilities rather than technical ownership. This simplifies decision-making for SaaS adoption, renewal, or discontinuation. This is massive, right? This is why it depends. This is the truth. It depends for every single situation. You actually need to go and discover your stakeholders, right? That is where asset management has extreme value. Talk to your service desk, talk to infrastructure and operations, talk to your DevOps team, to security, to finance, legal, your endpoint management team, your application management team, your IT strategy is dependent on whether assets are assets or not. Human resources cares about this too. Any department that uses SaaS tools thinks about things in much the same way. They need to know the financial impacts of it, and they need to know the technical impacts of it. And the same thing goes for your external stakeholders as well, your vendors, your suppliers. What if your SaaS solution is customer facing, right? You've got a portal that your customers log into to see their billing. Do you want to track that as an asset? Certainly you want to track it as a CI. And I would definitely posit that you want to track it as an asset as well, because what if you're going to replace that thing? What if the cost goes up? What if the cost goes down? What if they add a feature? What if they add AI? These are the things that service management needs to focus on. But there is one thing that everyone forgot, and that is the devil. The devil is in the details. Operationally, most teams require that you select an application or a configuration item or an asset on the incident form. Most service management systems track changes, and those changes need to identify which system, at least, is the primary focus. We get so wrapped up in the philosophy of whether something should be listed as an asset or not that we forget that the service desk needs to train people on these applications. They need to log tickets against them. And let's not forget the dreaded password reset. If someone is trying to reset their password on a SaaS solution and they don't have a license, that actually makes a difference operationally. And the old adage goes, you can't manage what you can't measure. We talk about service value chain. We talk about value stream mapping. We love these concepts. and the business is hyper focused on ROI. How can we understand, track, and manage those things without tracking the costs of them? Without understanding how often we can't get into it or how hard it is to train on it? How can we make good decisions about the SaaS solutions we're using without understanding all of the aspects, all the reasons we bought it in the first place? How can we measure the ROI without understanding how much we're paying for it? Do we just blanket trust these applications because they're SaaS? What if it's public cloud SaaS? What if it's provided by a competitor of ours? We need to manage these things. We need to understand them. Okay, with that, I will step off my tall soapbox. I've got some further reading here. These are some books. I referenced the USM method a few times. So if you're looking to get into USM, highly recommend that you pick that up. If you want some really deep textbooks on service management, check out these two: A Practical Guide to Service Management from Keith Sutherland and A Journey to Service Excellence from John Sainsbury. I'll hold one up now because it is a tome. This is the John Sainsbury one. It is 200 pages. And this, you can see by the size of my head, these are not small pages. This is a large textbook full of great examples, great graphics, great ways to think about service management. So if you want to geek out about service management, this is one way. The QR code here will link you to basically everything that I've done in the last year, including a lot of my other presentations, the one that I did at Pink, and the ones that I do at the HDI conferences, as well as my LinkedIn and my podcast Ticket Volume, where we talk about this stuff all the time. Without further ado, though, let's open it up for questions.